Good morning, everyone. My name's Tanzina Vega. I'm a media reporter for the New York Times. Thanks for being here. Hope you've all had your coffee. This is our first panel of the morning, so we'll get it started. It's taking a look at magazines, social media, and how we can make some money around that. Interesting study the other day that came out by the Pew Center. Confirmed things that I think we already know about social and how consumers are using social to keep in touch with people they already know, to follow celebrities and people of interest, and to explore hobbies that they might be interested in. On the flip side, we have Facebook that's making inroads with advertising agencies across the board, hosting hackathons. Twitter recently announced self-serve ads. So how are these two worlds coming together, and magazines somehow fall in the middle of that? Today we're going to find out how are magazines leveraging social media, what they can do to help make profitable this endeavor, and to help us figure this out, we're going to introduce our panel. I'm sorry, we all switched around a little bit. They keep me on my toes. To my left, we have Andrea Spiegel, the Vice President of New Product Development at Forbes. Next to Andrea, we have Romina Rosado, the Executive Producer of Us Weekly Digital. And at the end of the panel, we have Kristine Welker, the Chief Revenue Officer of Hearst Digital Media. Thank you, everyone, for being here. But we'll start off the panel essentially showing some case studies from each of our panelists. And the first case study we're going to take a look at is Andrea's.
Okay, let's see if clicker works. It does. So I run product development at Forbes. That means that I'm responsible for everything, the experiences that you have in digital. I'm responsible for all of the things that you see above me. And I often describe it like building a house. We have to be the architect, we're the contractor, we're doing the interior decorating, sometimes the feng shui, all to create an experience and build something for our audience. And then we work with our advertising staff, and they actually sell what we build. I often talk about what we do as building a fluid branded experience. That's the goal, to build a fluid branded Forbes experience that's across all of the platforms. And social is really the connector between all of that. We are looking to put authoritative journalism at the center of social media. So social is something that is not an afterthought for us, but it's a first thought. It's something we think about every time we set out to build something. We think about three audiences when we build. The first is our writers. We have 1,000 writers on the site. That's journalists from the Forbes staff and our topic experts, our contributors combined. We also have the consumers. And now Forbes reaches 25 million unique visitors a month. So we have a really broad reach right now. And advertisers who, in our world, have an equal seat at that table. And I'm going to show you some examples about showing how that works. With our Celebrity 100 list, we launched a Facebook quiz to promote that. We also have live now on the site, sponsored by iMeet, a sweepstakes that's tied to our America's Most Promising Companies feature. So that appears in the magazine, online, and the sweepstakes on Facebook to pull in that social component. We're also obviously promoting all of that on Twitter. So social begets social, and once you start, it's a never-ending cycle. You can go to our Facebook page on Forbes, our Forbes page on Facebook, and actually see that live now. We also have, with Merrill Lynch, a series of Twitter chats that run. We get experts. We have a Twitter chat at lunchtime where users can ask questions and interact. And again, that works with the entire Merrill Lynch program that we have. Also on Facebook, we have with American Express a Steve Forbes Q&A. So there were 3 sessions where Steve would announce on Twitter and on Facebook that he was going to be taking questions related to small business as part of the Amex Small Business Saturday program. And he would then engage with users. They would ask questions, he would answer, and it would be 3 sessions that we had leading up to their Small Business Saturday. Our biggest effort really is what we call Ad Voice. And with Ad Voice, we give advertisers the exact same tools that our contributors use. So they are on an equal playing field with our journalists. They're creating content, they're self-publishing whenever they want. They're using all of the same tools, and we have social baked in. So when they decide to write and publish a post on their topic, because they are topic experts, they can also put it out to Facebook and Twitter at the same time. It is always transparent and clearly labeled, and that's an important distinction. So when you encounter a post from SAP on Forbes, it will be clear to you that it's an Ad Voice post, so you as a user know what you're getting. But it's not a press release. It's not a marketing pitch. It's actual content about news in their industry, news in their topic that they have an expertise in and can speak to in a very valuable and worthwhile way. One of the proofs of concept here is that we've had several ad voice posts appear as our most popular posts across the entire site. So we have 1,000 journalists and topic experts, and SAP and Dell have both had posts that appear at the top of our most popular content. So I think that really demonstrates that it's a viable model, that they can, as advertisers, produce content that the public is willing to consume. And social is really threaded throughout all of this. Their content flows through with the rest of the content. So it could be an active conversation. It could be demonstrating a lot of shares from consumers, and they can see in a dashboard exactly what's happening with their post and track it. And they learn. SAP is a great example. They've absolutely learned along the way how to twist and shape and tinker to really try and get their posts to resonate with an audience. And the numbers demonstrate that they do. I'm going to leave you now, because we had 180 seconds, with a quote from Malcolm Forbes. It's one of my favorite quotes, and I think really speaks to what we are talking about today. Presence is more than just being there. And I think a lot of what we're doing at Forbes is really trying to make social an interactive part of every advertiser engagement that we have.
Romina.
Okay, great. Good morning, everybody. Challenge number 1 for me is going to be not to fall off this chair. Challenge number 2 is going to be to keep this brief. So I work at Us Weekly. I head up the digital day-to-day business for all of our digital products. And very similar to Andrea, I sit between edit, product, and the revenue side of the business to come up with products and revenue-generating ideas that make sense for the brand and make sense for the advertiser. So I thought the easiest way would be to take you through 3 campaigns, one that we did earlier this year, one that we're currently doing, and one that we will be doing. And they're kind of ordered from in order of complexity, from very basic to a little bit more involved. And I should say, Us Weekly is part of Wenner Media, as most of you know. We also publish Rolling Stone and Men's Journal, as well as Us Weekly. And while our brands are very large and very well known, we are very much a very lean and mean machine. So we've taken a very pragmatic approach when it comes to social media. And in terms of resources and how we approach social media, it's very much focused on making sure that the social currency that we have is used very wisely, and that we ensure that our brand and our readers come first, and that how we integrate an advertiser makes sense first and foremost for our readers. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that in the panel discussion. I hope that it comes up. So going to the examples, at the beginning of the year, one of the campaigns we did was for Sprint. Sprint came to us and said, we want to do something around the Academy Awards, which is one of the major events for Us Weekly. And we built a Twitter module for them, which lived on usmagazine.com. It was branded with Sprint branding. And our editors in Los Angeles were live tweeting from the red carpet. They were commenting on red carpet fashion, who was well-dressed, who was not so well-dressed. We created a hashtag, and our readers could interact with our editors in terms of who they were seeing on the red carpet. So at the most basic level, this integration was a display sponsor for something social that we were doing, right? Very simple, very easy. The second integration is currently happening, and you can see it on our Facebook page right now at facebook.com/usweekly. I hope you're a fan. Is for Starbucks. Starbucks is currently doing a holiday campaign, which is all around 12 days of gifting. It started on December 1. And what we're doing is a big piece of content where we have celebrities, stylists, and chefs, for example, Mario Batali, create content around the holiday. So Mario Batali tells you how to carve a turkey. And Ricky Wilson, who's a Dior makeup artist, tells you how to do holiday makeup, right? And the social component is that if you follow Us Weekly on Facebook, you can enter to win a giveaway where you win products that are related to the tip that we are presenting to you on the website. So we're tying in web content that we're presenting with a social component, but you're only able to enter on the website, on Facebook, right? And then the third aspect, which is the more involved one, is that for the first time ever for the awards season, which starts for us in January with the Golden Globes, and is obviously the biggest event of the year for us in terms of advertising and in many ways edit, is that for the first time ever, our interactive scorecard is going to live exclusively on Facebook, right? Because we're seeing that a lot of the interaction that happens around big live events, whether it be an award season, whether it be the finale of a big show that does well for us, happens socially. It no longer happens on the website in terms of comments, it happens on Facebook and Twitter. So again, for the first time, we're going to work with a sponsor to make that available on Facebook.
Kristine.
I'm going to turn this way and hopefully not fall off. Okay, so I am I'm the money chair, literally. One of the reasons why I was asked to sit on the panel is that just to give a sense of how we're monetizing our social efforts. And let me just say at the onset, we are still figuring this out. It's in the early stages of. So I'm just going to give you a sense of some of the things that we're exploring. And one of the first things, and we'll probably talk about this a little bit further, is if you're going to monetize your social efforts, step one is obviously to just not give it away. One of the things that we really focused on at Hearst, and we've got some of our Hearst partners here and the content team who are working with us to develop our social strategies, is that about 18 months ago when we really sat down to start looking at this really closely, we said, these are brand extensions with real value. They are no longer experimental projects. They are no longer promotional platforms. They are not marketing platforms. They are truly content platforms. So I think that's one of the most important things, because I think that's put us on our course at Hearst. So I'm going to give you an example, not several. I'm just going to drill into one example. But one of the things that I also think that we're doing at Hearst is that, again, and I'm going to talk about a Facebook partnership, but if we see that as a content platform, I think the other thing that we're doing in trying to monetize our content is the fact that we now view things as content packages that go across multiple platforms. So you've got your print, you've got your web, you've got your mobile platforms, and you have your social platforms. And the reason why I mention that is that not all of those platforms are treated equally. So when I say content packages, it doesn't mean that we're creating one content package and then trying to sell it everywhere. We're really creating content packages that are designed for each platform. But when we think about our content strategy and our content package as it pertains to monetization, the whole idea of content can be monetized once is not really the way we're looking at it. We want to be able to monetize our content, again, more than once across all of those platforms. And when I say don't give it away, that means that if you're giving away your social platform, then you're not really monetizing it, we think, to its greatest potential. So I don't want to run short on time. I'm going to quickly give you an example of something that when we talked with the panel we thought was a good idea, which was to show you what we're doing with Cosmopolitan. So the other thing we're doing with our content partners is looking at content that we think is of interest, water cooler content that people are going to be interested in, people are going to want to talk about, and people are going to want to really share. So I'm using this as an example because this is a content platform that has evolved over 3 years. It's also a good example because Maybelline has sponsored it for 3 years. So very quickly, what you see here is a partnership with Cosmopolitan. It's called Kisses for the Troops. And again, it started as a print equity, and you can see we really built to the strength of that print channel because it had this viral card in the magazine. So that was really terrific. Then we rolled it out on the website, and there's been this whole event strategy. So year one was print and event. Year two was layering on web. But really year two and year three, where we got a lot of momentum, was when we started to really realize that there was a good conversation going around this content and decided that we wanted to really blow it out from a Facebook standpoint. And so what we did here is, what we're hearing from our clients, and I'm sure you're hearing the same thing, is that Facebook is not an island, so to speak. So how do we create scale and synergy and bring our communities together? So in this case, what we did was that we were creating all this content on our Facebook channel, And then at the same time, we created the content to live on the Maybelline channel. So it solves for two things as you think about monetization. Number one, you've got your client spending on Facebook over here, and then you've got your clients spending with you over here. You've got to find ways to create scale and synergy between the two. Bring the communities together, number one. And number two, all of our clients see themselves as brands, as publishers, right? So the other benefit to this and the monetization is not only did we create scale and synergy between the communities, we also created great content to help them satisfy their brand as publisher model. So you've got a great equity, great program, living across multiple platforms, and there's great content that's being shared between our communities. So again, it sort of creates this continuous circle of sharing as we think about monetizing what our clients are most interested in. And then the last slide I thought I would throw in here is that at the end of the day, monetization comes from generating results. We're in the results business. We're not even really in the ad business any longer. If you can generate results through content, through community, through commerce, whatever it is, it's really about generating results. So, it's great to have your community, as we know, but we've spent a lot of time testing various products within our Facebook tab here as an example. So you can see here, I just pointed out 5 points of interaction. And we've been doing a lot of testing on a product level, trying to, again, it's not just about posting, it's not just about polling, it's about, creating deeper levels of engagement. So this is just an example of what we did within our Facebook tab here. And, it's everything from send a viral e-card, engage or sign up for the event, engage in lots of other things. But I think what was most interesting is the product finder that we also built into this. Because within this, you begin to see where you have this sort of continuous journey. They come in through the lens of Kisses for the Troops. They interact with the Cosmopolitan brand. They're sharing all this information with their friends. They're virally kissing the troops. I think it's self-explanatory what that means. And then here you can interact with the product gallery, and it brings you right back to Maybelline. So again, trying to sort of close this loop. So that's basically, just at a high level. I think I've already used my 2 minutes or 3 minutes. But, the point really here is, how do we monetize what we're calling content packages, and really trying to leverage all platforms that are out there, whether it's Facebook or Twitter or even YouTube, and really trying to generate more engagement and monetization. Do you need this back?
I'm good. Thank you. One of the interesting things that I think everyone on the panel brought up was content, and as being someone in the newsroom, that's a word that we used to own on the editorial side, and now that word seems to be shifting over to the marketing and brand side. I'm curious about inside each of your respective organizations. How is this, does this mean that the walls are being knocked down internally between edit and sales and business? And the flip side to that is, how is it that your advertising partners are coming to you and saying, do they have their own ideas? Are they looking to you to create that content? Because content seems to be the new reality that we're living in as far as what you guys are doing on the other side of the fence.
So I'll start. We don't see walls. We think content is content, and the label is what matters when you're looking at content created by an advertiser. So the concept of church and state, I think, is a bit antiquated. It doesn't mean there's a difference. It doesn't mean the fundamental rules of journalism still don't apply. But, excuse me, we see it in a different way. And I think, maybe a different analogy besides church and state is we're all on the same highway, and there's an HOV lane where the advertisers are in. Not sure if that really works, but conceptually, we try to, we work with the advertisers. I have a counterpart on the ad sales side, and he and I work very closely together to think about concepts that editorially are things that we want to do, that from a product perspective are things that make sense with our overall goals and revenue goals and audience goals and reach and all of those things that fit. So he's bringing in to the table, what's the advertiser looking for? And we're saying, here are some things that we think they would be able to really use to their benefit. And some of it's brand new. Ad Voice, we now have 6 that have been on the site, and SAP was our first. And they love that program. It has afforded them so much flexibility to get their message out. It's labeled again anytime you encounter it, so it's clear. But they've really been able to use that, not just in the mainstream, but in their industry. Their posts get circulated, so they have found additional value out of that. So for us, we kind of look at a flat landscape and then work together with labels and transparent branding.
I agree with that, but I will say that there are many instances where it does get dicey, and I think
Internally, or yeah.
Internally, and I think it also, I do think it's important to set a very clear policy as to who owns social platforms. In our case, we have decided that very clearly our social platforms and the voice on Twitter and Facebook, which are the two main social platforms that we operate, the voice and the content is owned 100% by our edit team, right? And they are the ones that ultimately make the decisions about the content, period. And, because we had a couple of instances where, especially with entertainment clients who wanted to provide tune-in information about a show that we would be covering edit-wise anyway, we would be covering a show like The New Girl on Fox, right, as an example. We would be writing a review about it. They're also an advertiser on the site. They want us to socially promote that show. Where do you draw that line, right? So those are things where I think it can get dicey, and I think it is important. It might be a little bit different for someone like Forbes. For us, I think it's slightly more complicated. And we have just made the decision that because Facebook and Twitter are such important outlets for us to engage with our readers, they're very important traffic drivers. There are community builders. There are where we think the brand will really grow, right? And we see them as very important revenue drivers, but we also see them as very important audience builders for us, that we do think that edit is still more important for us than revenue. So edit is still king.
In terms of driving the brand itself.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'll just add one thing that I think is important, and I will say this in front of our content social team sitting over there. I think it's important to understand, as you pointed out, everybody's in the content business now. Everybody. And, and I'm going to talk specifically about social. Some of our advertising partners are doing really good content and building really good brands in the social sphere. We've all heard about what Burberry's doing. And you know what? Burberry's, following is as large as some of our magazine following. So I think it's about how you partner and create equity together, but do it through the lens of making sure that it's authentic, because at the end of the day, we are still gauged based on results. So if we are not authentic and finding the right way to approach it, we're not going to perform in the end anyway. So results do matter. But I do think that we're learning a lot from our own advertising partners in the case. I think some of them are doing, pretty well in the social space.
What are some of the challenges that you're seeing with using some of these platforms? If we look at Facebook, for example, there's brand pages, you can get fans, and then the ad units themselves, while there are a couple of different kinds of ad units, we're still not looking at a homepage takeover on Facebook. We're still seeing social ads and socially enabled ads, but they're still essentially the thumbnail footprint that we've had. And Twitter, it's also sort of coming up and creating self-service ads. But are there limitations there? Are there challenges there that you're running into beyond Facebook and Twitter when you're trying to monetize content?
So I could probably lead that one as everybody looks over this way. Again, the money chair. And you're going to hear from Andy Mitchell next from Facebook. And we were just on the phone yesterday with him. Great guy, and talking exactly about that. We're growing our communities. We're growing it on the Facebook platform. It's important that we don't have a walled garden with our content. It's important that our content is is YouTube accessible, Facebook accessible out there. But again, at the end of the day, how are you going to monetize it? Are you going to charge for content syndication, or are you going to charge for advertising, right? So that's the stuff that we're wrestling with. And we did say yesterday on the phone, it can't just be the tab, it can't just be these sponsored stories, it can't just be ad and social, social targeting. So I think he's going to talk a little bit more about some of the products that Facebook is going to be offering, because I think they understand that they want us to feel like we can thrive in that environment. They understand our business model. I think he's going to talk a little bit about something that we haven't leveraged and we're going to start, which is the Canvas pages, where you can literally go in and create your own environment and serve your own ads within that environment. So I think they're being a lot more flexible, and they're open to helping us want to invest in that environment. So yes, the answer, I don't have the answer, but we do need to get beyond sponsored tabs, ad targeting, sponsored stories, in order to really make it a viable business.
I think it's also overwhelming. There are all of these social platforms with which you can engage. There's Twitter, Facebook, obviously, but there's StumbleUpon, there's Reddit. And I think you have to understand your audience. I think you have to understand your advertisers' goals, and you have to understand the different types of content that you have, and figure out what plays well in what environment. And that's trial and error. That's, sometimes things surprise you, and sometimes you sort of notice a trend and you can start to target things a little bit more. But there are a lot of possibilities, and even within those environments, different ways to actually engage. I also think it's, we're not on a one-way street anymore. I'm with all the traffic analogies today. But it's a two-way dialogue. And the engagement factor, not just putting something out there, but having that back and forth makes huge percentages of difference. And that's really important for everybody to understand, the editors, the social media teams that are working with us, and the advertisers who are so used to a world of control that letting go is often the biggest hurdle because they're afraid. But being able to get them into that space is really important. With our programs, the commenting is really key, and we encourage all of our writers and our ad voice partners to get into the comments, not just on their own posts, but across on other posts where they have expertise and opinions. And that's when it gets really, really interesting. When you have a user, a Forbes staffer, an ad voice partner, another user engaging, that's when the conversation, it's not just comments, it's an extension of the post, and it takes on another life of its own.
What about things like offering, we talked a little bit about the magazine itself trying to retain its brand and strengthen its brand on social. How are you trying to achieve that? Is it by using social as a mouthpiece for the brand? Is it by offering customer service? Is it by responding to people who might say, this article was awful, or this was, is it offering daily deals? What is it as far as the overall magazine brand that's important, and how are you trying to do that? Because that ultimately plays into the advertisers who are going to want to partner with you, I'd imagine.
It's a number of things. I'll say we have really changed our approach, and I'll talk about Facebook because there are too many different things. But in Facebook, we've really changed our approach in the last 6 months. At the beginning of the year, I was looking obsessively at the number of people who liked our page. In the last 6 months, I'm really looking at engagement, again, obsessively. Because I think it's a much more realistic metric. I think Facebook has really improved its insight metrics. And I think it's a much more realistic metric. I'm looking at how many people are resharing content that we put on our wall. We're doing a lot more. Our editors and our social media team is doing a lot more in terms of resharing content, engaging our readers, asking them questions about content that we post on the site. Another thing that we started doing is having celebrities take over our Facebook page. So we have celebrities come into the office to do interviews with our editors. So we have them take over our Facebook page for a couple of hours, and our readers can do a Q&A with that celebrity. We have them comment on covers. We ask them about cover ideas. We do some sweeps and giveaways, but that's not really, has not really been the main driver, surprisingly. It's really just asking them their opinion. But again, it's going back to a point that has come up again and again. I think it's so important that the content is organic to the brand and that it makes sense with the overall brand message that you're getting across. And one of the things for us that I'm seeing on Facebook is that we're able to be a little bit more cheeky, is I think the word, than in the magazine or even on the website, right? Because I think the audience that we have and our fans, that's what they're looking for. They have a different user behavior than they have on other platforms.
So I don't think about the magazine brand as separate. We think about the Forbes brand, and we're trying to extend the brand, as you saw on the slide, across all of the platforms. So we will ask users. Currently, we have a 30 under 30 feature that isn't live yet. It's not online and it's not in the magazine yet, but we've posted about it, and we're taking suggestions for people, the 30 under 30 in 12 categories who have had a big impact in the past year. So we're trying to bring the users in. But I think a big point that we haven't really talked about yet is, in showing results, it's about, we're doing a lot, everyone's doing a lot in the different platforms, but when you come back to the results, we're still very much in an ad impression world. Mm-hmm. And figuring out how to value what is real value in a social media zone is very different. Having a small niche audience really engaged may have more value than X number of ad impressions, and I think that's really what we're all trying to work through and figure out. We're looking at coming up with engagement metrics that can help showcase, this piece actually had this impact. Nobody has the answer to that yet, but we're all really, that's I think what we are all focused on.
And I'll just add one thing to that, and I know we're going to end up having to wrap up. There's a really great opportunity from an industry standpoint to really create a totally different business model around social and social monetization. Is it going to be an impression-based model, or is it going to be an engagement-based model? And I think we should all think about that as we're literally pricing what could be potentially an entirely new approach. And I totally agree with that, and we haven't figured it out. But that should be an industry discussion and not at a magazine level or a brand level. And then the only other thing I would say, because we represent a portfolio of 24 brands, to your prior question, not all brands are treated equally, and as you said, you really need to understand your user and what they're interested in. So Cosmopolitan is the 3rd largest magazine brand within the Facebook platform. 17 is the 4th largest. Vogue is the 3rd largest, I think. If there's Connie out here and I get your numbers wrong, I apologize. Harper's Bazaar is not really, we're not pushing Harper's Bazaar on Facebook. We're not paying to grow Harper's Bazaar on Facebook, although Harper's Bazaar happens to be our #1 brand from a Twitter standpoint. So the whole idea is not everything is attached to any one social channel, and it really just, as you mentioned earlier, you need to understand what the brand is, the brand values, the message, and the user, and where they want the brand, to be.
And as we head into 2012, what would be your wish list item for social? Is there a metric that you're looking to achieve? Is there some campaign that would sort of set the standard? What is that, or is there something that you're looking that doesn't exist right now that you think would be great to have in social?
Measurement. That is the #1 thing, measurement, so we can monetize it better.
And I think figuring out how to help advertisers move faster toward where we think they should be, where we believe there's real value for them.
I think the measurement around being able to prove, as you mentioned earlier, that there is value there for our brand, because what we don't want is for earned media to become free media. And that is not a place that any one of us want to be. And until we're able to prove that there's greater brand value across all of these platforms, and that's where the measurement and the insights and the analytics will really matter, because we need better data to be able to prove that correct. So we're focused a lot on that this year, because otherwise earned media will become free media, and we don't necessarily, we believe in that model, but we don't believe that it's suggesting that our brands can't capitalize, monetize, or establish value around that.
I think we have time for one question from the audience. If anyone has, we've got one right over there.
Hi, Stacy. Hi.
You have a mic over there.
Oh, hi. I'm really loud, though. Ask Kristine. Stacy Morrison. I'm working with blogher.com right now, which is the largest network of women bloggers in the U.S. But I wanted to ask you guys about scale, because I know that that continues to kind of be a tripping and stumbling issue. It certainly relates to the revenue process, but I wanted to ask, how are advertisers talking to you about it now? How are you guys resolving it? Obviously, with what you've done, Forbes, you know that some of your content's rising to the top, but I just wanted to hear you respond to that.
Scale in terms of?
Well, it's like as a piece of things, because of the fact that you can direct response audience versus the larger size of the audiences in the main magazine brands. Not quantifying it, but it's like how much of a rub is. And I'm sorry I'm not being clear. So there's an audience for the magazine that's measured a particular way, and then there's a very specific way, and we're talking about changing face of analytics online. And I'm wondering that because sometimes what we're tracking online still is smaller than the larger audience, how are those conversations being had, since you're getting so much more potent feedback about engagement? Is the conversation about scale shifting so that size isn't always like the big gigantic elephant in the room?
Well, and scale can, to that point, scale can be defined lots of different ways. Scale can be defined based on just sheer size, or scale can be the fact that you're going across multiple platforms. We see scale consistently as a subject that matters to advertisers. There's so much out there now, as you saw in my slides, that they're asking for scale and synergies. Their resources aren't growing, yet their requirements and their consumers' requirements are growing. So what we're finding is that our clients are absolutely looking for scale and synergy across whatever it is that they're doing. In the digital space, scale in terms of size really does matter. Scale could mean the fact that you can go across the portfolio and reach multiple different audiences. Scale can also mean about how good we're doing, scaling across different platforms. So to your last point, I think scale does matter, and scale can be defined on so many different levels. But at the end of the day, scale to our advertisers means efficiencies. And I'm not saying price efficiencies, just efficiencies in, again, as we always hear, more with less.
I think we've got 30 seconds left. Maybe one more. Anyone else?
I feel like I'm on The View.
We've got one more. Right. I know.
With ad voice, I think it's really interesting. Thanks. It's really interesting. If maybe they do so well that they don't need to buy ads. Is there any concern about that?
No. It's part of their ad program, right? Being able to do an ad voice. So I think that it only, first, we brought that to them so they understand the platform, the brand matters. We were talking about this off stage before. Being associated with the Forbes brand is very important to them. Being able to reach the audience, being able to engage with that audience, all of those things are really powerful to them. And so I think it works the opposite way. When they're very happy with the results, it makes them want to do more, and we can put other new innovative ideas in front of them that they would be likely to try. Because ad voice, certainly for SAP, they were the groundbreaking company that decided we're gonna go with this, and so they've kind of worked through it with us as it's grown, and we're developing it we're iterating live, so they understand what they're in for, and they've seen the positive results, so they're more likely to actually engage with us on other efforts.
And they only get ad voice if they're doing other things.
I'm sorry?
They only get ad voice.
It's part of a
Nice,
program that
okay.
we present to them.
Now we are officially out of time, and I'm getting so thank you all. Thanks to the panel.